My name is Jill. I am so excited to be here to talk about the brand new machines that we just launched from Cricut, the Maker 4 and then the Explore 4. So like Rich mentioned, at Michael's, you can only get the sage color in both the Maker 4 and Explore 4. But also at Michael's, you can also get the seashell color, which is the soft neutral pink, which I absolutely love. And a bonus, if you purchase it at Michael's, you'll get $30 worth of digital content that you can use in Design Space. So while we get started, let's warm up the chat. Why doesn't everyone drop in where they're joining us from today? And if you already have a Cricut, if you've purchased the Maker 4 or the Explore 4, and what you're hoping to get out of the class today. So I'll give everyone a minute to drop those into the chat. And then awesome, Rich dropped the project links into the chat as well. And so we're going to be making 3 different projects today. So my objective for the class today is to tell you about the Maker 4 and the Explore 4 machines, what comes in the Essentials bundle when you purchase it at Michael's, and then go through 3 different projects, how you'll make cardstock, vinyl, and iron-on projects using the materials that come in the Essentials bundle. So without further ado, in the Essentials bundle, what you'll get is obviously either the Maker 4 or Explore 4 machine. You'll also get a set of tools. And so this is super nice because it includes everything you need to get started. So a weeder. And so this is super, super, super important for peeling away excess vinyl or iron-on. A scoring tool, which we will use this scoring stylus later today in the class to make a cardstock birthday card. A spatula, which is really great for getting those pesky little last pieces of cardstock off your mats. A spatula, a scraper, a scraper, which is really great for getting super clean fold lines. An additional pen, and then 6 sheets of iron-on, 6 sheets of vinyl, and then 6 sheets of cardstock, which if you've ever used Cricut cardstock, you'll know that it is the best. It's so thick, it's solid core, meaning you're not going to get that little white bubble in the middle, and then also a light grip mat. So we're going to be using all of these materials in the class today. And so if you want to craft along, please feel free to click into the links and it'll take you to the Design Space link if you have your machine handy, if you've already purchased your Essentials bundle. If not, feel free to pop in questions about anything that you have, whether it's a question on how to use Design Space, what am I doing, all of that. So without further ado, I am going to create some space for just my Maker 4. I'm going to be using the Maker 4 machine today. We're going to move the bundle components out of the way, and we're going to dive in first with a project using cardstock. So what I love about this card, you'll see here, this is the final product of the card we're going to be making today. So what I love about this is it uses every single color that comes in the Essentials bundle. And so we're going to get a lot of great utility. One of the best things about using the Maker 4 machine is that it cuts on matted materials 2 times as fast as the predecessor, the Maker 3. And so if you're in a hurry, if you're super busy, please make sure to use the Maker 4 because it's going to cut so quickly and we're going to see. Awesome. So if we want to jump over to my computer screen, I'm going to show you the card that I pre-designed in Design Space here today. And so you can see here that if you're not familiar with Design Space, it is our design tool that works with every Cricut machine. And so you'll put your projects into this application. You can do it on desktop or mobile first. And what we have here is we have a canvas screen very similar to what you'd see on like a Canva or Adobe-like program. And everything you see here is what the machine is going to be doing. So for example, I have this blue backer on my card. If I hit the little I, it'll hide it, and that means it won't send it to the machine. And then you also have the functions that Design Space will tell the machine to do here. So for example, you'll see it's telling the machine to score, it's telling the machine to cut a square. And so that's how I'm going to get that super crisp folded card. You can also see I have my white piece of paper, and then I also have a bunch of cute stars that will be drawn onto the card. What I love about both our Explore and Maker machines is that they can do so many different functions: write, draw, score, foil, and then the Maker has a bunch of additional advanced capabilities that we'll get into a little bit later. And then we have these fun little balloons in different colors. So there's a very quick and dirty Design Space overview. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to my machine. So by hitting the make button, Today we're going to be making on a mat, and I have my 12 by 12 mat that's included in the essentials bundle. And then it's going to take me to the make screen. And so here you can see every single mat that you're going to be cutting as part of the project today. So you'll see I have my white piece of paper where I'll draw and cut in the same function. So I'm going to select my machine here. I'm connected via USB, but you can also connect via Bluetooth. And then I'm going to select heavy cardstock. And then what I love about this is like you never have to remember everything that I'm walking you through. Design Space will show you, okay, we need our pen in clamp A of the machine. We need the fine point blade in clamp B, which comes included with your machine and preloaded. And then it'll tell me to load and press. So if we want to switch to the camera view, I'll show you what we're going to do. So I have all my sheets of paper here on my mats all ready to go. And so I'm going to load this into the machine. Okay, so you're gonna set it, and then the light that is flashing will tell you what you need to do. So I'm gonna load it in, and what the machine is gonna do from there, it's gonna make sure that I have the right amount of material ready to go. And then I'm gonna make sure I have my pen in the A clamp here. I'm using the magenta pen that comes included with the bundle. Okay, so to double check, I have my pen, I have my fine point blade included, and then now the play button is flashing, so I'm gonna hit play. Okay, let's watch how fast this goes. What I love about the Maker 4 machine is it makes matted cuts and drawing functions so much faster. If you do a lot of cardstock projects, you'll know that if you're like addressing envelopes for a wedding, a graduation, that is a very time consuming project. But what I love is that this makes it just as fast as using smart materials. So to clarify the difference between matted and smart materials real quick, matted materials are what uses the sticky mats that one comes with your machine, and then you can also purchase standard grip and strong grip mats as well. And then smart materials are materials that just load into the mat or load into the machine without a mat. And so we have smart vinyl, smart iron-on, and then smart sticker cardstock as well. So those are super easy for doing long cuts up to 12 feet in length. I'll pause there. Rick, do we have any questions from the group?
We do have a question from Carmela. She's wondering, can you use the machine to make Christmas balls?
I'm not sure what you mean by Christmas balls. Can we get some clarification on that?
Let's see if she gives us a bit of clarification. I'm assuming possibly with some vinyl decorations to stick onto a ball, perhaps. But we'll wait and see what she has to say.
Yeah, what I will say is that you can, the Maker 4 cuts up to 300 materials, and then the Explorer 4 cuts up to 100 materials. So whether these Christmas balls are wood, acrylic, felt, vinyl, paper, the answer is most likely yes, you'll be able to cut, or you'll be able to make it using the Cricut machine. So what you'll see here is my machine just automatically swapped over to do the cut without me having to change out any of the tools. And so you get both the write and the draw functions with the Maker 4. And then just like that, all done. And so if we flip to the overhead view here, you'll see that my machine drew these cute little stars all over it. So stars and dots, which adds just a nice little additional layer of detail. Okay, this is a pro tip that I've learned over my years crafting, is you're gonna flip over your mat to take your material off, and then you're gonna leave your material flat and peel the mat away. And so that's my pro tip, because if you just kind of strip it off directly, you're gonna get some curling of your material, which for paper is a little bit tricky to combat. Okay, gonna move that out. And then if we swap back over to my computer screen view, you'll see that the machine automatically adjusts to the next layer. And so I'm gonna do the pink balloon that's included in the card. And then we're gonna load it in. I do not need my pen anymore, so I'm gonna pull that out, put the cap on. Pro tip, if you use Cricut pens, you should always store them with the cap down, and that'll keep them fresh and lasting as long as possible. Okay, we're gonna hit play on this one. From here, it goes really quickly because we're gonna be cutting the balloons, and then also the little happy birthday banner across the front.
We have a great question from Alicia Jill. She's wondering, how much faster is it for the Cricut Maker for this Cricut Maker versus the Cricut 3? And does the speed depend on the Wi-Fi connection?
That's a great question. And so the Maker 4 is up to 2 times as fast as the Maker 3 machine. It does not depend on the Wi-Fi connection that you have, but what it does depend on is the material that you're cutting. So if you've ever cut, for example, chipboard or wood, you'll know that those require a few different cuts and the machine has to be a lot more precise with those. And so that'll cut a little bit slower always. But for cutting things like cardstock, it's going to go a lot faster. And so you'll get that up to 2 times increased speed. So if you're looking to upgrade from a Maker 3 machine, I would say it really depends on what you're making, what you like to do, and how often you're doing that. Like if you're a paper crafter primarily, I would say it is a great upgrade to do the Maker 4 because you're going to save so much time in terms of those matted cuts. And it really helps to increase the efficiency because I find with paper crafting, like yes, the assembly can take a lot of time, but also like the time with the machine spent can be a lot of time if you're cutting really like intricate, detailed cuts. And so the increased speed is definitely something that will help there.
And we have one more question. Is there any way that you could explain a little bit more about how the cutting mat works?
Yeah, for sure. And so when you get your cutting mat, let me see if I have one of these liners. Okay, so when you get your cutting mat, it's going to come with this clear liner on top of it. And so that just helps protect the sticky side of it. And so it comes with a little hang tag, which I have all mine hanging on a hook at home. And so how the cutting mat works is, I hope you could hear that. You'll take off the protective liner of the mat. And then, like I have on this sheet here, you're going to put your cardstock over it and on the sticky part. So you'll see on the mats here that they have a grid on them. If we jump to the overhead view, you can see here. So they have a grid where there's 12 inches down and then 12 inches across. And then you also have the centimeter view on the other side. So that's really going to help you measure like, okay, if I'm cutting a card that's only 6 inches, I can do that with a piece of cardstock that is only 6 inches. I love these mats because they're really great for using scraps and remnants of materials. You'll see here with this bundle, like I've only cut so much of this pink material. And so the rest of this I can use, and I can use the grid on the mat to identify how much space I have left and align that with the cut view in Design Space to make sure that I'm going to only be cutting material that I have. Does that help answer your question about mats?
I think that was a great answer. What's the best way to keep those mats clean?
Okay, so there are a few things that you can do to keep your mats clean. I'm going to be multitasking while we finish cutting out our card. So one thing that I am really bad about doing, but I've seen be very successful, is when you get your mat and you have the plastic sheet protector, what you're going to do is first thing is I would write this side up. So always make sure that you're putting the same side onto the sticky part, since dust and like air will collect on the outside of this side of the mat, and this is the clean side. Always try to put that clean, sticky side onto the sticky part of the mat. That's one tip. And then the other tip I would say is continually use the spatula that comes with your mat. And this is the thing that I'm the worst at, but scraping off the excess cardstock at the end of every single cut will help keep these mats looking fresh. And then finally, like when your mats like collect a bunch, like especially if you're cutting glitter cardstock, which I love to do, but glitter will just accumulate. You can use an all-purpose cleaner and a paper towel or microfiber cloth just to like wipe them off. You might lose some of the stickiness over time, but that'll help keep them in shape for as long as possible. Any other questions we have?
I think we have one clarification regarding the mats. They're wondering specifically the mat with the 4 different squares, the card mat. They were wondering how does that one work?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if I have a card mat handy here. But how the card mat works is there is let me think how to explain this as well as possible. I'm going to come back to that and see if I can find a card mat because it'll be so much easier to show you rather than tell you. My friends in the studio are going to help me try to find one. Okay, so while we look for a card mat, this next one is where we're gonna use the score tool. So the scoring stylus that comes with the Essentials bundle It is the same size as a pen, and it's gonna plop down into this A carriage of our machine here. And so if we jump over to design space, one thing to know is that your design space, if you're using a maker machine, it's gonna default to using the scoring wheel. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna edit tools. This is something that I just learned how to do, and it's so handy. You'll see that we have 3 different options for scoring tools. What comes included with the bundle is a scoring stylus, and so I'm gonna use that. But I also have the option of using the single scoring wheel or the double scoring wheel, which are sold separately at Michael's. Perfect. Now that I have that all set, I'm gonna load my machine and keep going.
With the speed of this machine, Jill, does it run the risk of tearing any thin cuts when it comes to, like, thin script fonts?
That's a great question. And so in terms of if it runs the risk, that's why I say it kind of depends on the material you're cutting, how fast it'll go, because the machine is always going to optimize for like the type of cut that you're doing. If you're doing a super intricate detailed cut, it's going to adjust to make sure that your cut comes out as smooth and as clean as possible. Okay, thank you so much, Chase. My friend Chase brought me a card mat here. So here you'll see the 2x2 card mat, and this is sold separately, but this is really great for making insert cards that we make as Cricut. And so this has 2 separate liners on the top, so you'll see here. And then if we jump to the overhead view, you'll see that this has a clear sheet of plastic on top. And so when you get an insert card, you'll slide the top part on top of the sticky, and then the bottom part will not get cut. And so you can cut out different designs. And so we have both cutaway cards and insert cards sold by Cricut. And so this is how you can just cut one side of the existing Cricut cards. Perfect. Hopefully that helps answer your question around how that works. Any other follow-up questions, Rich?
Not yet. Great questions, great answers.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to make sure that we get a super special view of how we're going to work with that score line. And so I have here my dark blue, which is going to be the base of our card. And if you look on the overhead view, it's really hard to see. It's a very faint line, but that's what our scoring stylus did for us. And so when I go to fold it over, you'll see how easy that just came together. And I just like to use my scraper to just get a super crisp cut, but like that feels professional. I love the professional finish that something like that gives. So now that I have that, we're going to continue assembling. And so I just have this cute little glue pen. It's a Zig glue pen. You can get these at Michael's too, but they're so handy to have for assembling quick paper projects like this. Just gonna draw all over the back of it. And then what's fun about this is like, okay, so I shared the Design Space link with Rich, and so you can access the Design Space link. But what you can really do in Design Space is customize it to fit your needs. And so if you have different colors of cardstock you want to do at home, if you would rather wish someone happy birthday in Spanish and make it say Feliz cumpleaños, you can adjust and customize anything in Design Space to fit your needs, which is really nice because I don't feel like I'm a person with creative vision per se, but I know what I like and I know what I want to say on a birthday card. And so I love Design Space for that reason because I don't have to feel like the pressure of personalizing anything completely. I can go into the platform, find something that I like enough, and then customize it to fit my needs or the special occasion.
Nancy's really impressed with the fact that it adjusts to the materials that you're using, but she's wondering, with this feature, do we need to select anything specific when starting to send, to make our cut?
No, you're not going to have to make any additional adjustments. And so if you've used Crickets of the past, like I know with the Air 2 is when we really introduced like customized cut settings for different materials. That's what really sets Cricut apart is that using Design Space, so I selected heavy cardstock for these cuts, it makes it seamless. And so I don't have to know like how many pounds of pressure my machine needs to do or the cut depth of the material. When you're using Cricut materials that are already preloaded into Design Space, the software and the machine work together to help you get that perfect cut every single time. And so that's something that I love because memorization is not my strong suit by any means. And so Cricut has made it super seamless. And so that whether I'm cutting felt or cardstock or engraving on acetate, it is so easy to be able to do any of those projects super seamlessly. Awesome. I mean, we've just been chit-chatting. Let's see. It took me 22 minutes to make that card. If we swap to the top view, I am a very beginner crafter. And while chit-chatting and answering questions, we were able to put this card together. I love how quickly the Maker 4 was able to help me do this and how seamless it all came together. This is something you can personalize, and it's nice because like while it is a very professional looking card, it is something that someone can still tell that I took the time to do. You can write a message on the inside. You could also type a message into Design Space and then have it do that for you if you want. Like I love a really perfect handwriting. So that's always a nice feature that the machine can do. But look at how easy that was. So that was our first project. We just completed our cardstock birthday card. Any additional questions about cardstock, matted materials, or the Maker 4, Rich?
Let's see. Nothing yet. There, everyone's loving the new machine. Beautiful card. We've got some great comments coming in.
Okay, perfect. Before we jump on, I want to just show a few other examples of cards that I said I was a beginner crafter, but I have made this card before and it is really challenging to make, but it is so gorgeous. If we flip to the overhead view, so it's just a standard card, but when you open it, there's a 3D pop-up. And then the actual card itself is in this little pocket over in the corner where you can write your secret message over here. And so I gave this to a friend for a baby shower. And it was so fun because her baby shower was butterfly themed. And I loved this. This is a project that is actually saved in Design Space and comes with an envelope sized for this project. I don't have the link super handy right now, but I will share it after the class so that you can make this one yourself. And then these cards are super fun. These are using some of our shiny foil cardstock. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but you can see here that we've just engraved a yay exclamation point. So how fun is this for celebrating whether someone just had a baby, purchased a home, completed a new job, so many different things. And so it's super fun because there's so much versatility that you get with Cricut machines to make so many different projects. Perfect. Okay, let's change gears and we're going to get into what I consider the bread and butter of a Cricut project, which is vinyl. So you can see here, this was a little Easter egg and sneak peek, but we're going to be making this super cute vinyl sign. So I got this piece of wood at Michael's, and so it's just a wood blank and then painted the top part black. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut out these leaves, this welcome, and then I'll show you how to personalize it for your family name and then anniversary year. So you want to make a long, feel free to click onto the project and we will head over to Design Space to get started.
Quick question about your glue pen that you were using. We have a few folks wondering what brand was it?
It is the Zig brand, Zig memory system. It is sold at Michael's. And so I know we shared a link in the last class, and so we can see about that. Okay, perfect. So while I am in Design Space, I wanted to just share a few quick things. And so in Design Space, you can save projects. And so I can see here a few people have liked this project. You can also bookmark it to save it so that you can make it later. So if you just see something that you're like, oh, that would be cute to make for Easter, but I have a few weeks, you can bookmark it to save it for later. You can also see here all of the shapes and images and fonts used in that project. As a note, Design Space is a free software to use. However, there is a subscription version here called Cricut Access. And so when you see this little lowercase a in the corner, that is a subscription required image or font. It's $9.99 a month to use, but you do get a free month free when you first purchase your machine. Okay, so I'm going to hit customize on that project here. It's a little bit difficult to see the white font. And so if you come up here to the top toolbar, you can see here the material colors. I'm going to make it black just for the purpose of this tutorial. And so what I want to do is I want to make the sign for me specifically. And so currently The example shows Anderson family established in 2025. I'm gonna edit the text. And so if you double click on Anderson, you can type in your name. So my family name is Anna Freddy, and then we were established in 2019. So I can adjust, let's see, I kind of want to put that on 2 lines. And so I like that, how that looks. I kind of want to decrease the line space. And so there's a little less space between Anna Freddy family and established 2019. And then it's a little bit off center. So in order to get those aligned, you're going to come over into this right-hand layers panel. So this panel is going to show everything that you have on the canvas. And so I'm going to select both of those by holding down the shift button and then clicking on my layers. And then to get them aligned, this align tool over here in the top toolbar is going to be your best friend. So we're going to center them horizontally to make sure that it's a perfect fit. And then I'm going to double check that I like everything. You also have the option to adjust the fonts. And so you can see over here, we have this fonts panel where you can select from a variety of different fonts to fit your personal style, or if you're gifting to someone, their style as well. You can select filters. And so whether you want something in all caps, if you don't have a subscription and want to use a free font, there are so many different options. And then also all the languages. And so if you're going to make a Ramadan card for someone in Arabic, you also have that option, which is so cool. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do before I send this to the cut screen is, this is one of the hardest things for me to remember in Design Space always, but I'm going to select my 2 layers. If you want multiple layers to cut exactly how they look, what you have to do before you send it to the cut screen is you have to hit attach. And so this little paper clip at the bottom says attach. And so it keeps objects in place. And so your design cuts exactly the way it is arranged on canvas. I love this cute little pop-up that explains what all the tools mean. And so I'm going to hit attach. And so that means that my welcome and Anna Freddy family text are connected, and how it shows here is exactly how it'll cut. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change it to white. It doesn't necessarily matter what's on here, but I just want to make sure it matches. Always make sure to save your projects. And then I'm going to hit the make button. Okay, we're switching gears here, and the materials included with the essentials bundle are smart matless materials. So I'm going to select without a mat, and then it's going to show me what I am ready to cut. And so if we pop over to the main view screen, I have here a sheet of smart vinyl. This is permanent smart vinyl that gets included with the bundle. Again, this is a matless material, and so you just load it into the machine and it's ready to go, which I absolutely love. So these materials cut super fast on the Maker 4 machine, but they also cut fast on the Maker 3 machine for sure, but they cut even faster on the Maker 4. So I love these machines because increased speed is always a win. Like, I don't know a person who isn't super busy. So, I mean, save time always. And then you have more time to assemble your project, spend time with the people you're gifting them to. It's amazing. Okay, so we're going to see how the machine, again, it's going to measure to make sure that we have the right amount of material, which is super valuable on matless materials because you can definitely cut into the nowhere space, but your machine will never let you do that. And then again, the machine is just making sure I have the right tools. And so the Cricut Maker 4, you can use up to 13 different tools in this V carriage here. So the fine point blade comes included, but there's also a tool to emboss, engrave, cut fabric, a rotary blade for thicker fabrics. And so there's so many different functions that you can do with the Cricut Maker 4. It is so precise. I've worked for Cricut for over 4 years now, and I will never get over how fun it is to just watch the machine go. It feels like it is a robot, but it is so cool and so precise how it makes things that I'm making. It's personal to me. Rich, do we have any questions?
No questions as of yet. I
Okay,
think
perfect.
following along.
Perfect. If you're making along, it'll obviously vary how long it takes for your own name to cut out. Like my name, Ona Freddy, has a lot of O's, it has a lot of little things. And so we'll see when we get to the weeding portion of this project, how that all really comes together and like how you'll get to like extract everything out of it. Perfect. So while we're waiting for that to finish cutting out, I'm gonna start weeding. So I pre-cut the leaves that I am gonna put on the back of the sign. How quick that was. I'm ready to go. Okay, I'm gonna hit unload on the machine. I'm gonna use the trimmer here. So the trimmer is sold separately, but I feel like this is an ultra valuable tool to have in your toolkit whenever. And so I'm gonna just pull down on the trimmer here. And so I have, this is my piece of vinyl with my cut design, and then this is my scrap. I keep all my scraps in a little bit of a separate folder. And so I can just use those, whether it's on a mat or if it's big enough to use as a smart material. Up next, I'm going to take my weeding tool here. This is included with your bundle, and this little hooky guy is going to be your best friend. And so weeding can be really satisfying. What I find is the most helpful way to start is you start in an upper corner where your design is not, and then you're just going to pull away at the excess. Oh, it looks like I have a little bit of an adjustment to make real quick. So you're going to just pull away at the excess. So you'll want to go a little bit slow to make sure that you're not pulling away any of the super like fine details. Like my M got a little bit stuck there for a second, but we're just pulling it away. And so what it's going to leave behind is my design that I cut out. Okay, so it's a little bit difficult to see on white. I'm going to try to like make, no, you can see the welcome very faintly. It's a little bit tricky to see. Oh, that kind of works. Yeah, right there. You can see. So what I'm going to have to do now is go through and pull out all of the center things. So I cut out the little O here and then get like the center of your A. I forget what those things are called. I don't know if there's a name for them. But all of the O's and the A's.
So while you're doing a bit of weeding, we do have a couple of questions coming in.
Perfect.
Some of the dies have a gold rim while others don't. They've noticed that some are a quick insert. Can you talk a bit about that?
Some of the, sorry, some of the what?
Some of the dies have a gold rim while others don't. They've noticed that some are quick insert, and they were wondering if you could talk about the differences in those dies and
When you
quick
say
insert.
dies, do you mean the tools that go in the machine?
That's what I'm assuming they're meaning
Okay,
here.
perfect. So in the machine, and so if we trying to see which is the best way to view it. Okay, so you have your A carriage and your B carriage, and both of those have little seat belts that you can open. And so if I open up my fine point blade here, this one is silver. And so the question is like, what's the difference between a silver and a gold? The answer is it doesn't really matter per se. If you use quick swap tools, and so what this is here is this is the housing, and then the blade is actually inside of it. So if you push down on this little knobby guy, you can see the blade itself. And so other tools like the rotary blade or the scoring wheel or the engraving blade, they have quick swap tools where you can just swap out the tips of the tools to get different functionality. Hopefully that helps answer that question.
Okay. Another question from Brian. He's wondering, is there a speed difference between the Maker 4 and the Explore 4?
That's a great question, Brian. No, there is not a speed difference between the Maker 4 and the Explore 4 per se. So the Maker 4 is going to be a machine with a little bit more cut force. And so you're going to be able to cut more tool or more types of materials. So up to 300 materials with the Maker 4 and only up to 100 materials with the Explore 4 machine. And so that's the main difference between the two machines is that you get more functionality with the Maker 4 than you do with the Explorer 4.
Awesome. And Alicia has a little tip for everyone in class today. She says a trick that she uses for her mat cover is that she puts the word on the very top front of the cover mat. Then if you place it on upside down, it will say no, and you know that you're not using the right side of the mat cover.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Alicia. That's a super helpful tip for sure. Okay, before we move on to more questions, real quick, I want to explain what I'm doing here with my transfer tape. So you'll get sheets of transfer tape included with your essentials bundle, but you can also purchase it by the roll. And so transfer tape has been like it's an acquired taste for me, but I think I finally gotten the hang of it. So you can see that I just like peeled away a corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel away one side of the transfer tape, and now I've folded down a portion of it so you can only see about an inch of the sticky side. What I'm going to do now is I am going to lay that sticky part of the transfer tape onto my leaves, smooth it out. Okay, this is where the magic happens. Let's make sure you can see it. Now I'm going to take this folded piece of the backer that I already had and just glide it on top. Was that not the coolest thing ever? This is the best way, in my opinion, to use transfer tape because then it makes so you're not going to have to touch all of the sticky parts. You're not going to risk getting it stuck on your hair or on your shirt. What I'm doing now is I am using the scraper tool to um, really just transfer my design over to the transfer tape. So this is called, if you want the technical term, this is called burnishing. So I'll give it a good scrape on the front side, flip it over to the back side, give it another good scrape. Okay, once that's done, I want to make sure that it is ready to go. So I'm going to just slowly peel away, and you can see here that my vinyl has transferred over to the transfer tape. Oh, no, I lost a leaf. That's okay. I'll transfer that over later on. Okay, so now you can see here I have my leaves there very nicely. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to my wood sign. This grid is super helpful when you need it to get a super precise placement of your vinyl project. And so I've seen people use it for like measurements and the like. Okay, so I'm going to place it down, use a scraper again to make sure that my vinyl adheres to my wood sign. This is a little bit tricky because the paint on the wood. A pro tip that I have is if you're ever trying to take off transfer tape or vinyl is and it's not sticking super well, try it from another direction. It's kind of like the same thing as like if your computer's not working, turn it on and off a few times and it'll work. Kind of how I try to reset my vinyl projects. Lots of patience sometimes can be required depending on the material that you're adhering your vinyl projects to. And I find like finer details like these leaves just require some extra TLC when applying them.
And while you're working with your transfer tape, we have one of our members that would like to know a little bit more about the different transfer tapes, perhaps, and when you use certain transfer tapes.
Yeah, so I would say like primarily you don't really, unless specified in design space, like the type of transfer tape that you use doesn't matter a ton. We have strong bond transfer tape that's really great for like infusible ink projects. I personally prefer to use our linerless transfer tape, which doesn't have this white liner on it because I find it just a little bit easier to use. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip over applying the white vinyl so that we can get to our final iron-on project. But you can see here the welcome sign for the Nicholson family. I will complete my own personal sign right after the class, but super easy to make. And I want to make sure that we get to our final project, which is an iron-on project. I hope I answered the transfer tape question. I know I was moving on a little bit quick, but I would say there isn't a huge difference. It just kind of comes down to personal preference. I know like a lot of people don't like the linerless transfer tape as much, but I find it the easiest to use, honestly. Any other questions on vinyl before we move on to our final project, which is iron on?
No questions yet, but Nicole has another quick tip for us. Using the circuit brayer tool is the perfect thing to use after you apply the vinyl because it removes lots of the bubbles.
That is a great tip. And so I don't have a brayer handy here, but a brayer is just a roller essentially. So really great for helping adhere. I use it for iron on all the time. Vinyl, really great for getting out the excess bubbles. Okay. Last but not least, we're going to make an iron on project. And so I have this super cute tote bag that I got at Michael's. So it says all the things I need. We are going to create this. And so this, all the things I need was an image that I found in Design Space. I wanted to add an additional little sparkle. So I'm using silver glitter iron on that. This does not come included in the bundle, but you can purchase it at Michael's. And so we're going to jump over to Design Space. Okay, you can see I've already saved this project here, but we are all ready to go. It's already designed with my blue iron-on with the silver stars. You can always customize the colors. You can add any additional bling or change out the image entirely. Okay, so today we're going to talk through what it means to layer iron-on. And so you'll see here that I have two different colors of iron-on. And so we're going to cut them separately and I'll show them how you can apply them. So we're going to use Smart Iron-On. This is glitter. Okay, this little pop-up here shows mirror on. Design Space automatically mirrors iron-on materials. And so this is great because you don't have to remember to flip your project. And so when we cut on iron-on, always make sure to put the shiny side down. Okay, I'm going to load this into my machine if we can show that view. So you can see here that on my glitter iron-on, my shiny side is facing down, and I'm just going to cut on the matte side here. Perfect. Made sure that I have enough for those little stars. I'll hit play, and then I'm going to get my next sheet ready to go. Again, machine is just detecting to make sure the fine point blade is installed. And one thing I did is on these, I attached them together so it would cut at exactly the right width that I want for this project. You don't have to do that if you're wanting to save additional material, which is always a good thing. Again, I'm going to use my handy trimmer to cut it down to be the right size. And then we'll jump over to Design Space again. And you can see here that you can see all of the materials available to cut. Compatible means these are just our matteless materials available. And so I'm going to be using today Smart Iron-On Matteless Heat Transfer Vinyl. Okay, again, it automatically mirrored. This is super important when you're cutting out words, just to make sure that you don't do it backwards. I don't know, this is a Mean Girls reference, but this is my favorite example when Karen Smith is getting ready to go to prom and she puts the rhinestone K on her chest and she does it backwards because she does it in the mirror. If you don't do that on your Design Space projects, that's how it's going to turn out. Where did I put my weeder? That one. Okay, while we're waiting, I'm going to just weed away this glitter iron-on with my stars. Let's see, where are my stars? One other pro tip I want to call out, if we jump over to Design Space real quick, if you're looking to really plan out your time in terms of like making your projects, I find it super helpful to use this cutting barometer in Design Space because it'll show you how far along you are. And so this shows it's at 100%. So it is almost nearly done cutting, which is a super handy tool, especially when you're doing multiple cuts for sure. Perfect. Okay, while we were chatting, I finished weeding my design. And so you can see here when I put the two designs on top of each other. Okay, iron-on comes with this pretty sticky backer, which I find super nifty to apply. And so I'm gonna move these off to the side real quick. And then what I have done is I have preheat my Cricut Easy Press 3. This is also sold at Michael's. I have the 9x9 size here. And then I'm also going to use a Cricut Easy Press mat to protect my gorgeous wood table. Okay, we're going to lay this down flat here, and then I'm just going to make sure that my handles are out of the way. Okay, this canvas bag is ready to go. I'm going to just remove this main wrinkle in the seam so that we don't get any bubbling in our final design. And so when you're using a Cricut heat press, you can set the time and the temperature settings. And to find out what time and temperature settings you need to use for your specific project, you just go to cricut.com/heat guide, and that'll give you the information you need in order to get a perfect press on Smart Iron-On on a canvas bag. Perfect. So now that I've preheat my project, I'm going to lay down my bag or my design exactly how I want it. Put it over the design. With the 9x9, I'm going to try to cover it all, hit the play button, and it's going to time it for me. While we wait, Rich, any questions from the group?
No questions yet. Just one maybe hanging around for the end when you finish this project. We have a member that's wondering a little bit more about the mug maker because they're interested in possibly purchasing the mug maker, and they'd like to know a little bit more about the type of vinyl used on that and the mug maker.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Awesome. Okay, so the heat press just beeped to let me know it's done. This is a little bit tricky when you are doing layered iron-on. And so all of our Smart Iron-On is a cool peel. And so I'm going to let this cool completely. Once it's cooled, what I'll do is I will remove this top backer and then I will lay my stars down on top and then just press again. So the completed product will look like this. So you can see here that I've pressed both my blue and then my silver iron-on independently. And so you get two different colors, two different finishes. And you can also layer on top of each other. So if you want like a multi-layer psychedelic design, there's so many different things you can do with iron-on to make your projects even more personal. Perfect. So you can see here, I have my completed tote bag. This is great for a book bag, grocery stores. I love making personalized totes for gifts because then it's something that people can use over and over again. And I find that the Cricut Maker 4 has made it even easier than ever to make different projects and make them a breeze. Before we go, I will give a last chance to ask any final questions on the Maker 4 or the Explorer 4. Again, these are the Sage machines that you can get exclusively at Michael's, and they come in the Essentials bundle, which includes enough materials to make up to 100 projects. You can see here on the screen what all that includes. It comes with your tools, it comes with vinyl, iron-on, cardstock, a light grip mat, and transfer tape. The other thing that is I haven't mentioned quite yet is when you purchase your machine at Michael's, you'll get 30 minutes with a Cricut Pro. So we spent a lot of time going over things in the class today. When you purchase your machine at Michael's, you'll get a link to sign up for a one-on-one 30-minute session via Zoom with a Cricut Pro. So you can ask about design space tips, you can ask about how to do a specific project. It is invaluable advice. And honestly, it's something that I would love to do to just learn more of the pro tips that will help making using your Cricut even easier than ever. Real quick to answer the question around the Cricut mug press. So the mug press is one of our heat presses that has a cylindrical heat plate in there, and you can use it to press ceramic mugs. It works with sublimation or our infusible ink materials. And so you can get those at Michael's, and it's really great I love it for personalizing like teacher gifts. My grandma loves her morning coffee and she's a really good poker player. So I've personalized a bunch of different card mugs for her specifically. And so The mug press is a great way to personalize different gifts as well. Awesome, Rich. Any other questions before we close out?
We do have a couple more. Suzanne's wondering about she says, I thought heat activated items have a mask and don't need the transfer tape. Is there something new?
Oh, that's a great question. And so they don't need transfer tape per se. When you're cutting on a matless material, there is, so this shiny part you can see here is the carrier sheet. And so that kind of acts as what you're considering the transfer tape in this scenario, just because that is what we pulled away from. And so this is not needed, but this is just how the material comes. Perfect. Any other questions?
And we have one more question from Nancy. She's wondering, was the light grip mat the only one recommended for the use in these new machines?
It is not the only one recommended for use. It really, again, depends on the material and the project that you're doing. It is the one that comes included with these machines. And so the Explore 4 and Maker 4 both come included with a light grip mat, but you can purchase standard grip, strong grip, and fabric grip mats at Michael's.
All right, no more questions. We do have lots of great links in the main chat. So if everyone wants to go over to the main chat, we covered lots of the items that Jill used today, as well as other things that Michael offers to complement the circuit makers. So go ahead and check that chat out before we end today's class. But those are all the questions that I have on my end.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today. Please make sure to head over to Michael's, check out these machines, share what you make, whether it's in Design Space, the Facebook groups, on social media. We would love to see how you're using these machines to enhance your making journey. So, again, I'm Jill. Thank you so much for joining today.